I'm Chris Avena with American Outdoor News. Today we are here with my friend Larry Weishuhn, uh, world renowned in the outdoor industry. Larry, thank you so much for coming on.
Chris, what a pleasure. You and I have been friends for a long time. And, I think we did one of these not too very long ago, maybe a year or so ago, and we were up at the DSC chapter up in the Northeast, which was an absolutely fantastic event and so much fun on top of everything else.
Yeah, we're trying to do some big things and expand our reach in the Northeast with the Dallas Safari Club chapter up there. Um, Always a fight, though.
It is, but it's a very valiant one. And you guys, I've been very fortunate. DSC, I was with Corey Mason a couple of days ago, and he was on the phone with Bruce Borowski, who heads up the chapter development. And I understand DSC, as of yesterday, was up to, I think, a total of 22 chapters, and they were discussing the addition of some more coming up on board here before too very long. So, DSC for a long time did not have chapters. And then here, I guess about 6 years ago or something like that, maybe they started developing the different chapters across the country. And with Bruce Borowski in place now, Bruce comes with great experience in doing these kind of things. They're adding chapters almost seem like on a weekly basis kind of thing, or at least visiting with folks that want to farm chapters. So, really good stuff. I love the time I got to spend up there in the Northeast. Your group that you have up there is just phenomenal. I mean, their heart's in the right places and their dollars are being put in the right places as well, too. So my hat's off to those guys up in the Northeast and of course, all the other DSC chapters as well, too.
Yeah, and Bruce has really been doing an outstanding job. He's grown the DSC by leaps and bounds since he stepped into the position.
He is. I envisioned with him not too very long ago. We're moving our annual convention to Atlanta in, I think it's the January 9th through 12th of 2025. Unfortunately, in Dallas, our old home base, they're tearing down the K Valley Convention Center. And as it's worked out, we knew that was coming. And as a result of that, they had been going across the country. We had people looking for places where convention might be held. And finally came up with Atlanta because we can have the same dates every year. And that World Congress Center there is absolutely phenomenal. Of course, there's a hotel on either side of the convention center, and then in
Yep.
that area too, right across the road, are more hotels. So, really looking forward to that one kind of thing. And where I was going with all that is just in the last few weeks, we've created several chapters in that Florida, Georgia, southeastern corner, and those guys there are doing a phenomenal job. One thing I learned too is that within about a 3 or 4 hour drive of Atlanta, there's something like 3.1 or 3.4 million licensed hunters.
Wow.
That's not including fishermen, because and DSC is strong in fishing and hunting both. But so I'm really looking forward to that convention at this point, and I know you are too, because we've talked about being there together again come that January 9th through 12th of 25.
Yeah, we have a few things going on.
Well, you were so very kind at the 2024 to award me the Lifetime Achievement Award, the American Outdoors News Lifetime Achievement Award, and truly, truly honored. And I don't know that I could ever thank you enough for that.
Well, for our inaugural award, I could really think of nobody more deserving uh, than somebody has given his life's work to the outdoors, who's promoted and inspired and uh, mentored so many people without even realizing it. And I thank you for everything that you've done for me in American Outdoor News too. I mean, when I started the magazine, you stepped right up and said, "I want to write for you." I'm like, Larry, I can't afford you.
Yes, you could.
But part of our success has been because of your contributions, and I greatly appreciate everything that you've done.
Well, you're very, very kind. You know, we're all in this together, and excuse me, where I live here in Texas, we've had an unbelievable amount of rainfall, and as a result, we have got flowers and all kinds of little uh, all kinds of little things floating around the air, and my voice kind of comes and goes. But again, we're all in this together. What you've been able to do through the American Outdoor News is just phenomenal. You brought people together among other things, and the articles that you have and what you do through it. Of course, now what you're doing through your podcast as well too. There's great information available, and you know, a few stories get told every once in a while, and you like a few others realize that to really get people interested in things, sometimes you have to kind of hide some things in those stories to where all of a sudden later they go, well, I didn't know that. Yeah, I did know that, you know, or maybe it's bringing
Yeah.
people information that they knew before and have forgotten, or now maybe they never knew. And it's really kind of created through the American Outdoor News what you've done, as I said, with both publication and the podcast is just really kind of brought people together. And to me, that's a really important thing that we need to do in the outdoor community.
Well, I found that not everybody has the ability to go on destination hunts, go to Africa, go on a bear hunt, go elk hunting. So they could live vicariously through our experiences. And you just took a trip to Alberta and took a really nice bear. How was that trip?
Oh my gracious! I'll tell you what. I was a guest of Mark Seidlinger, who has a media creative direct, something like that. I apologize to Mark for his company name right now. Excuse me, but I was invited to him by him to go up to Alberta on a bear hunt, and I dearly love bear hunting. And got up there, and guess what? It was cool. And I usually, when I tell this story, I hold up six fingers because six is the number of total mosquitoes that I saw on this trip.
Thank God for that, right?
Oh my God. You know, I love thermocells, and I'd actually carried two of them up there with me so that I have one on either side of me, knowing that generally when the bear hunting's really good, the mosquitoes are absolutely horrible. But as it worked out, the temperatures were in the high 30s in the morning, and throughout the day stayed in the 40s. I think 1 or 2 days it got up to about 50, 51 degrees. And so the hunting was absolutely comfortable. And of course, for the most part, you just hunt late in the afternoon, although there were bears moving pretty much all day. We had a couple of guys that went out in the morning and were able to take bears, but most everybody hunted in the afternoon. And I got very fortunate the first afternoon. My intentions were to have a rifle, a Mossberg 7 millimeter PRC and Hornady and all that kind of thing. And we've been working with, there's a company called Avient or Avient, Avient, that does a tremendous amount when it comes to doing with anything with polymers. Well, they have developed a barrel technique or technology, if you will, for producing rifle barrels that stay cool in the interior, and they're the only place you find the heat is on the outside. So, and it's
Wow.
very lightweight and very stiff. It's kind of a combination of as I recall, a steel liner inside where you have the barrel of the grooves and lands, then some kind of ceramic, and then that's surrounded by a polymer. And this polymer and the ceramic draws the heat away from that barrel. It also makes that barrel extremely stiff and also lightweight. Now, unfortunately, my rifle didn't get there because somebody within the UPS decided that I didn't need that rifle. So graciously, I was able to borrow a rifle from Brad Fenson, who's a writer, biologist. I know you know Brad as well too, and a lot of other people out there know him through all his various work. And the fact that he's probably one of the better outdoor cooks there's ever been. He graciously allowed me to use one of his Mossberg rifles that I topped with a new scope company, the scope that I'm trying to do some work with right now called Stealth Vision. So as a combination of
Okay.
all that brought together, very, very accurate combination. Got there the first day, made sure that the rifle and the scope were all properly sighted in. Went out that afternoon in pouring rain, and about 8 o'clock that afternoon, this bear walked in. Now, this bear had been coming to this bait, but he would come to an edge of the opening and he would stare up to see if somebody was sitting in a ladder blind. And if there was somebody in the ladder blind, all they'd see of him is just maybe a swishing motion of him leaving, kind of thing. Well, I sat on the ground. So this bear came in, came close, looked in the ladder blind, nobody there. And then, unfortunately for him, made the mistake coming into the bait, and I was able to take him. And when we recovered him, he only went a little way, but when we recovered him, he ended up squaring 7 feet and 8 inches and had a little over 20-inch skull.
Wow.
Very, very old bear. And to me, that's the beauty of the bait hunting of bear, is that you can be so very selective in the animal that you take. And it's so much fun because there's always birds moving. There's all kinds of little critters moving. You know, there's something going on all of those 6 to 8 hours that you sit on a blind every day.
Something to keep you occupied. You got to bring an
Absolutely.
you got to bring an air gun just to like do some entertainment shooting, you know.
Well, actually, we had there was a gentleman there from Umarex, who Richard Turner, who's very much involved with Umarex, and he actually had a 50 caliber air gun that he ended up taking a bear with. And then while he was there, he also let us see a 20 gauge shotgun
Wow.
situation that they're developing. So, you know, the air gun market is really growing in leaps and bounds here in the States, and worldwide to an extent as well too. And so, you know, you got to kind of keep up on some of the technology, and it's not that old Daisy Red Ryder that we had when we were kids
Yeah,
that is available
the
these
Daisy
days.
rifles. The
Yeah,
uh the air gun rifles, I've had the pleasure of shooting some of those
right.
high caliber air rifles, and they are phenomenal. I mean, you can take them to Africa. You could take down big game. You could take bears. I mean, it's crazy.
It is their effective range, and of course, the beauty of it is you can travel with them as long as you have access to compressed air kind of thing. So, and you can't just go to the local tire shop and air up your rifle, you know, kind of thing. But there's generally places in town where you can do so, and there are tanks you can travel with as well too. And to me, that's kind of a growing segment of our hunting. We were fortunate also. We had guys there from Daniel Defense who had a new rifle, and they were using an Avient technology barrel, and then two. Brad Vinson, Brad was there shooting 10-point crossbows, and he ended up taking two really nice bear. And
Wow.
Mark Seidlinger had a Traditions 4570 that he took a bear that was equal to mine, maybe even a little bit bigger skull than the one that I took. But then we also had a gentleman there, interestingly, that shot an old 50 caliber Maori, which was produced in Texas many, many years ago, muzzleloader. So when you got right down to it, they had a bow hunter. So we had pretty much a pretty good representation across the board of people that hunt with various different types of firearms and hunting equipment.
You know, we've been pretty fortunate where we've seen technology expand in such a short period of time to open up our hunting opportunities. Now you have muzzle loaders that'll shoot 400 yards right now, and the crossbows. The new 10 point is a phenomenal crossbow. So
Brad had one of those there, and I had the opportunity to shoot it a little bit. We were shooting some target stuff there, and the accuracy and the penetration of the bolts that they were shooting, that he was shooting, both his bears, of course, that were pass throughs that he shot, and left a very shall we say obvious blood trail in doing so. But to me, all those are, you know, I'm kind of old school. I love revolver handgun hunting, single shot handgun hunting, and single shot rifles, and you know, blued steel and pretty walnut wood rifled stocks kind of thing. But there, as you mentioned, there's so many opportunities there these days. And, I guess I'm going to have to in the future kind of explore some of those. I visited with Mark Seidlinger, who, as I mentioned, and Mark does a lot of things with the 10-point guys. And I very seriously trying to get him to get me one of them that I can play around with a little bit this coming fall.
Yeah. Yeah. I think one of my favorite ways to hunt that I've kind of really grown to like is crossbow.
Really?
I shoot what the hell do I shoot? An Excalibur.
Yes, sir.
Uh, it's simple. It's no cams.
Right.
It shoots as good and as accurate as a 10-point or one of the other crossbows. It's just one less thing to go wrong if you're on a destination hunt. You're not going to blow a cam. Uh,
True.
and the first time I hunted with it, I took a nice doe. I couldn't wait to shoot something with it, to tell you the truth. so,
Understood. Understood.
so this doe comes in at first light, and I pulled the trigger on it. This thing didn't even know it was hit. It walked like 3 steps and just fell over. I was floored. I'm like, oh my God, this is the most unbelievable thing. And I love hunting with the crossbow.
I can understand that, with a very sharp broadhead, or whether it's mechanical or fixed, there is very little trauma involved when a wound is created, and that is to me one of the very definite things about using a crossbow on some of these properties that I manage in Texas. We have to take a substantial number of deer each year, and including that, of course, includes a lot of does. So to me, that crossbow, I don't have the time nor the real want to shoot a bow anymore, a traditional bow, or one of the fancier wheel bows and all that kind of thing. And I
Yeah.
love pulling the trigger. And to me, I can see myself pulling the trigger on a crossbow, being very quiet about doing it. So, the deer goes down, another one comes in doing it that way, I can probably harvest 3 or 4 does in the same morning. Whereas with rifle, if I'm fortunate, I may shoot 1 or 2 kind of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. The noise,
Right.
keep them away. Crossbow, they don't hear anything.
No, no. And as you mentioned, with the technology that they have, all the crossbows we have these days, and particularly with the broadheads or the mechanical points that we have these days, and the bolt and the energy that they deliver, those are very, very quick killing, humane killing machines.
Yeah. Now, what I would really want to know, and I'm sure a lot of people ask the same question, is where do you find the time to do everything that you do? You're going on hunts, TV shows, streaming videos, books, podcasts. Where do you find the time? I know there's time management, but there's not enough time in the day.
Well, you're very busy throughout the day and the evening as well too. I know, because occasionally I'll get an email or something from you in a really odd hour kind of thing. Uh, to be very open with you, I despise having to sleep. It, to me, sleep is one of the greatest wasted time there is ever. And if my body would allow me to, I doubt seriously that I'd ever sleep. My days generally start very early, and there are very few days when I don't put in a minimum of 12 to 16 hours kind of thing. And
Wow.
I love to write. I love what I do. And that is both the blessing and the curse of what I do, is that I dearly love what I do. And I can't wait to get up in the morning and go to work. And I hate going to sleep at night kind of thing. So, but I've been very fortunate. I've been that way for a long, long time. My body's kind of gotten used to it. And I've got a wife and family that understands my passion for the outdoors and the things that I love to do. So to me, it's all, every bit of the things that I do are directed hopefully to perpetuate wildlife conservation, to perpetuate hunting which is wildlife conservation. And it's an effort that I feel is really worthwhile for the amount of hours that I do put into it. But I love to write, and I write quickly, and I love people. And with that said, years ago, I used to counsel students when I was at Texas A&M doing wildlife disease research, and these students would come in, and I said, "Why are you in wildlife?" kind of thing, and they go, "I love the outdoors, and I like to hunt, and I like to fish, and I don't like people." And I go, "Would come with me." And they go, "What do you mean come with me?" And I said, "We're going to go talk to your advisor. We're going to change your major." And they go, "What are you talking about?" And I said, "Because if you don't like people, you don't need to be you don't need to be in this industry, because 95 to 99.9% of the things we do in terms of wildlife involves other people." And so to me,
Sure.
I'm very fortunate. I love people. I love listening to people's stories. I want to know how they hunt. I want to know what they did, how they did it, what they used, what their thoughts are, what's their best way of preparing a white-tailed deer backstrap, or a 6-inch brook trout, or moose, or whatever kind of thing. So I think a lot of it comes down to the fact that, I just dearly love what I do. And to me, everything that I do, whether it's a podcast, whether it's a radio show, whether it's a TV show, whether it's a blog, whether it's an article, book, TV, whatever, that's all part of a big wheel that is involved as far as PR, media, and marketing, if you will. Because whether
Mm-hmm.
we market individual products in the outdoors, or whether we market the outdoors as a whole, we are marketers when you get right down to it.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. Now, you wrote two books this year.
Actually,
Most
there's a
most
third
people
one.
have a hard time writing one book. You wrote two, along with hundreds of articles throughout the course of the year. There's loving what you do, and then there's like obsessive compulsive.
Maybe that's part of it. You're right. Luke Clayton and I had kicked around the idea for a long time. Luke and I do Luke's been doing radio for a long, long time, and I've been with the radio show for I think going on 17 years now, and
Wow.
a weekly radio show. And for years, he and I both have mutual love for the outdoors, and we talked about, man, we needed to do a book. So finally, we said, okay, that's it. It's time, So he and I sat down and we did a book called Campfire Talk, and it is a compilation of different things that we have done in the outdoors. There's some hunting, there's some fishing, there's some recipes, there's some adventure stuff, there's some just plain old good stories in it, in that particular book. And it's been a while since I had written that's one book, and it's been a while since I'd written a deer book and about deer hunting. So I thought, well, I've got an addiction to deer hunting when you get right down to it. So the working title became Deer Addictions, which became the real title when it's all said and done. Deer Addictions is about hunting deer in North America, starting with the Sitka blacktail up off the Alaskan coast, going down
Wow.
to Columbian blacktail, then picking up mule deer, the Rocky Mountain mule deer, and desert mule deer, of course, whitetail deer across North America, the Cow's whitetail or Coues whitetail, however you prefer to pronounce it, down in the Southwest, and then also going down into the central part of the North America, if you will, where you can find the little brocket deer, which is about a 35, 40 pound. That's a little, maybe even not quite that big deer kind of thing. And I've been very fortunate to have hunted all these in some instances, of course, numerous times. And so that particular book is kind of a compilation of hunting stories, of kind of what I've learned about about deer hunting, and some of them some of them are there's always good information in there. And I say that because as a wildlife biologist, I learned a long time ago that you can impart good knowledge about habitat, about the species, about the behavior of the species, and those kind of things within an article that's written about hunting. So that kind of thing is there. Now the third book is at the printers right now. And hopefully it will be out sometime later. Well, it will be out later this summer. And that one is both Luke Clayton and I, again, combining on this book. Luke and I both have loved hunting wild hogs for a long time. depending on who you talk to down in our part of the world, you're either cursed or blessed with wild hogs.
Love
And
them hogs.
yeah, and Luke probably even more. I really like hogs, but Luke probably even more than me loves hogs, and so we've been talking about doing this hog hunting book. And years ago, Wayne Fears, J. Wayne Fears from down in Alabama, Wayne and I did lots of things together. And Wayne was and still is a very prolific writer, even though not quite as much in now as he was in the past. But Fears and I both loved hunting hogs. And we were sitting around one day telling hog hunting stories about being charged by this boar and, or this sow with pigs or whatever, and kind of are just surprising one of them, having make a run at us. And he and I both looked at each other at the same time and in unison said, "The poor man's grizzly," because they are truly tough.
Yep.
They're tenacious. They're really hard to bring down in some instances, and they are potentially dangerous. So he and I kicked that idea around for a while, and we both used it as magazine article titles. And so when we started putting together this book that Luke and I did, uh, I thought, man, what are we going to call it? And immediately I thought, oh, wait a minute, we've got the right title. We'll call it The Poor Man's Grizzly. So uh, that book, as I said, will be out probably sometime here in middle July, August, somewhere along and through there.
Okay. That's a passion of mine as well. And it's a big market as far as the book, because there's not a lot of books about hog hunting. And there's
You know
so
what?
much to learn.
There is, and hunting in itself. Every time you go field, I feel like I learned something, kind of thing. But you're right. The wild hog is here to stay. They were brought across, of course, many years ago by the Spanish explorers because of the fact that they did well on a boat. They ate anything. They were real prolific, and they were a great food source. So the Spanish explorers, when they came in, they'd have 20, 30, 40, maybe even more hogs with them, and then have a guy kind of lead them around. And when they had pigs, they'd go. They needed food. There was a ready food supply. Well, a lot of these got away, and over the years, they farmed their own populations. And now, usually, when somebody asks me, says about wild hogs, and this is in North America, and I said, well, there's them what's got them, and them what's going to get them. Uh,
Mhm.
Even now there was an effort in Canada a few years ago to produce true European wild hogs for the meat market, and a lot of those hogs got away, and they're starting to head south now. And of course, we've had hogs all along the southeast in Texas and California, and they're moving not only south where they can, they're moving north as well
They're
too.
moving north. Yeah, they
So
definitely are.
there's a tremendous number of wild hogs out there, and they're very prolific, as they can have 2.5 litters a year. By the time that sow starts that half litter, those first pigs or little gilts are already getting ready to be bred, and so they expand
Yeah.
exponentially rather than mathematically, kind of thing.
Well, I think I've hunted them just about every way except with a muzzle loader and at night with night vision. So those are two things left on my list. I got them
All
with
right.
a got them with a compound bow, spot and stalk, crossbow, rifle, helicopter, and with dogs and a knife.
Oh
So
my goodness. Well, you
that
beat me. I've been around with guys using knives because a lot of our guys down here in the southern part of Texas had really good hog dogs, and they were concerned about somebody possibly accidentally shooting one of their dogs, in the melee that happens when they get a big old boar bait. And so they developed techniques, as you saw, of walking in, having a catch dog holding the head. They'd grab the hind legs, twist that hog on the side, put
yep.
a knee right behind the ear, and says, "Okay," and you big old boy looking knife, and says, "Okay, stick him."
Well, it wasn't until that moment that I had to stick the pig with the knife that I realized where that term came from, squeal like a pig.
Yeah, they do. I've had them actually an old boar a time or two that would, whatever reason, was very cantankerous kind of thing, and I've heard them do that a squeal as they're running towards you, kind of thing.
Oh, they
Uh,
scream. Yeah.
Oh man. And if you're not somewhat prepared for those kind of situations, they could spook you pretty badly.
They can do some damage too.
And, oh gosh, yes.
They're just the right height where they can uh, gore your what's that? Your femoral artery in
Yes,
your
sir.
thigh. Yeah,
Yes, sir.
they get that, you bleed out pretty quick.
Absolutely. I've had over the years, I've had several friends who are hog hunters and even just ranch people that ended up getting cut by a big old boar because their teeth, their canines, if you will, their or tusk or tushes, whatever you want to call it. Every time that hog opens and closes his mouth, they meet. And in those meetings where they meet, they create a razor sharp edge.
Yep.
So they surely can be a grizzly bear when you get right down to it.
Yeah, they're tough animals. They are durable. You don't hit them right, they come right at you. You know, a bear you shoot, they'll take off and run the other way.
And the good thing is for the most part, outside of maybe some of the old boars that are really rank, they're pretty darn good to eat, and they really you can use that wild pork essentially any way that you would use domestic pork. Now you don't want to get that internal temperature up to about 180 degrees and that kind of thing, but that's really kind of what you want to do on most any kind of meat as well. So, but that wild pork, like the hams and the back straps and even the ribs, barbecued or grilled, are absolutely fantastic.
It's no better eating. And I have a bunch of hog recipes coming up in my new cookbook that'll be out later this
All
year.
right, all right, good. I love hearing that. By golly.
Well, I've been experimenting over time, and I created some pretty unusual wild game recipes that you don't normally see. You know, Thai food, Italian
Man,
food, good stuff.
Chris, I can't wait. And I love to cook, and I know you do too. And of course, I mentioned Luke Clayton, and Luke loves to cook. And I learned a few recipes while I was up in Canada from Brad Fenson. In years past, I have often, when we had leftover roast, whether it was a beef or particularly if it was venison, we used to pickle it, in a jar
Mm.
kind of thing. And while I was up there, we were having dinner one night with the first night we got there with Brad and his gracious wife Stephanie, and said that he said, "Here, try this," and he handed me a jar, and it was cut up pieces of all kinds of different sausages, mostly pork, a little bit of bear, a little bit of waterfowl because he's big into making sausage from ducks and geese, and I tried one of each, and oh my gosh, was it absolutely delicious! So I mean, there's another option there of how to utilize some of that wild pork and the wild game that we have, and it lasts forever once you bottle it and put it up on the
Yep.
shelf. I mean, so all kinds of good.
Yeah, bear sausage is good. It's very, very underrated.
It truly is. There's another book. I've got a meeting tomorrow, the day after we're doing this, with Jim Bequette. Jim, for years, was the editor of Shooting Times back when I was the hunting editor there, and even long before, going back to the days of Skeeter Skelton and Mr. Bill Jordan and oh my gosh, Bob Millick, John Wooders, and all those, a whole bunch of the other guys that some people now probably don't even recognize the name, but these were really the stalwarts years ago in outdoor writing. Jim and I have been friends for a long time, hunted together a fair amount. I've got a bunch of hunts coming up again this year. We're done, but he was going through some of his archives of things that he'd accumulated, and he found about, I think, about 350, 400 letters that were exchanged between Jack O'Connor, who was the dean of outdoor writing back until about 10, 15 years ago, or 20 years ago, I guess, when he passed away in the late 1900s. But he was one of the guys who really was one of the top writers for so many, many years. And the letters that Jim found are letters between he and a couple of the engineers at Winchester, back when Winchester was both the rifle and ammunition company together.
Wow.
And so we're looking at trying to put some of those letters together in a book form as well too. So
That's interesting.
really looking forward to that project. We're visiting with a couple of most of the books that I've been done. We've been self-publishing, but this particular book, I'm visiting with a couple of different publishers right now because of the scope and the popularity of what O'Connor was many years ago. And when you look at it, not just from, if you don't know who Jack O'Connor is, but you're interested in the outdoors and you're interested in, anything having to do with firearms or ammunition or anything like that, I think this will kind of create a historical perspective on a lot of things as to where some of the sporting arms, the sporting rounds, if you will, where they came from, how were they developed, what worked, what didn't. And I think there's O'Connor was a crusty old rascal in a lot of ways, and very outspoken, but came to be so because of knowledge, not just bravado kind of thing. But
Yeah.
some of the language, I think, in this, a couple of letters I read are rather descriptive, if you will. So I'm thinking we're probably going to just leave it just like it is and do that. And then I've got one other book I just started as well too, since we're still talking about books.
Wow.
I've been fortunate to have hunted a long time. I started many years ago when I was just a little bitty kid, and I've had a running case of buck fever ever since I started, and sometimes to the severity of where I missed the shot, and often just pure excitement. But I got to looking at it, and I've been hunting whitetail deer for 70 years now, which is a long time. And so I'm one of the working book title on the other book that I'm working on right now is simply called 70 Years of Buck Fever.
Wow.
So, and it's going to look at going back, and there'll be a lot of different perspectives involved in this, and kind of chronicling some of the advances that we saw or that we've seen in those years in terms of the sporting firearm, in terms of calibers, rounds, ammunition, the changes we've seen in optics, and so some
Yeah.
of that will be in there as well too. But a lot of it's just going to be just plain old storytelling of bucks that I bested, and quite a few that bested me.
I may write a book about hunting bloopers. Everything that could possibly go wrong, I've done it.
Well, I just did a series of articles and blogs that and basically they're about great misses. And I'm going to continue that series as well too, because over the years this will take a look at why I missed, and what did I learn? Did I learn anything? Did I learn not to repeat that same problem that I had because I missed the last deer, kind of thing? And
Yep.
in some instances, quite frankly, I learned a lot and corrected a lot. And then there's some instances where I made the same mistake more than once, many times over, actually.
One of my favorite stories is when I was younger. I was, it was hunting season. We were out and
Right.
about, and it just snowed the night before. We had a nice little dusting. So I'm, walking around doing a little spot and stalk, and I see deer tracks in the snow and crosses a creek. So I'm like, I'll just follow it. So I'm looking for a place to cross, and I see this tree that blew down, and
Oh, yes,
it's
sir. Right.
big blow down to walk across. I'm like, all right. So I start throw my gun over my shoulder, and I start walking across the log, and there's snow on it, and I start to slip.
Oh, no.
So I'm like, all right, I better jump for the side or I'm in
Yeah.
trouble here. So I take the leap of faith, and I end up in the deepest part of the creek that was chest deep, and
Oh, no.
and I had about a mile run back to the truck.
But you know
Uh,
what? I bet if the situation were the same, you would probably try the same thing even today.
I would do it again.
And if the results were the same, you'd probably go back to the truck kind of laughing at yourself. Well, I
Uh,
did that again.
I'd learned to park the truck closer.
See, now you did learn something about all that.
Oh boy, crazy
Oh my
stuff that
goodness.
happens in the woods, you know. So now, sportsman's life. You've been doing that for a couple of years now with Luke.
Yes, sir. Luke Clayton and Jeff Rice. Jeff loves playing with cameras and editing machines and that kind of thing. They started a little show called Sportsman's Life that was on a small network, if you will, of a internet network. And of course, I've known both of them for a while, and we got to visit. And one day they said, "Do you mind being a guest on this?" This goes back several years now, and I said, "Oh man, I'd love to," you know. And we got to visit and had a great time. And the show precept, concept, all those steps, if you will, is that it's real world hunting, real world outdoors. If you hunt and go hunting and you don't shoot anything, you know, we take a look at it where it's shown. If you go fishing, you catch a big fish, that's fine. Catch a little fish, catch no fish. You know, there's lots of really good information in the show. And one of the things that I appreciated about both of them is that particularly with Luke, in almost every show, there was some cooking segment about whether it was a game they were after or whether it was something he found in his freezer kind of thing. And then uh, with Jeff was very conservation minded in terms of providing good information. And Jeff's one of these guys that hunts like Luke, hunts with everything that he can, including with Jeff with a spear as well too. So
All right.
so I mean, it was a little bit of everything, and we got talking, and you know, and did the show, and had good response off that one or two shows, and so they came to me and said, "Hey, would you consider doing this show with us?" And I said, "Guys, I would dearly love to," because at the time I had just kind of all but really grown tired of doing traditional, I guess, should I say, outdoor television shows. For years, my most recent show that I did was Trailing the Hunter's Moon. It had been very, very successful
Yep.
and in a lot of different ways, and I loved doing it. But I was just getting kind of not really worn out. Maybe it's worn out rather than tired or you know just said okay, that's it. So I gave the show to Blake Barnett, who was my co-host at the time and had been a long time cameraman and all that kind of thing. And I'd just done that. So when they asked me, I thought, you know, here's the deal. I said, guys, I said, I'd love to do something with you, but, you know, I want to do it just whenever I can. And you know, if there's an opportunity to where I have only one chance to take an animal and the camera's not on, I don't want to say, well, I ain't going to shoot that one because the camera's not on. They can, nope, nope, nope. Let's just do it however you want to, kind of thing. So
Yep.
we pretty much kind of self-film what we're doing, and the show is now has been on Carbon TV for a while, and the YouTube channel, which is Sportsman's Life, is both of them are doing really well. The sponsors that I have through DSC and Hornady and Taurus and now with Mossberg and Stealth Vision and a new one called Vineyard Max company that produces some really outstanding deer attractants in terms of food that are nutritious. You know, it gives me an opportunity to highlight some of those as well too as some of the sponsors that Luke has, and the show's done really really well. And again, it is real world hunting and fishing, and it's a weekly. And the beauty of that is
Wow.
last week my daughter and I got a chance to go fishing and her husband Lance, my daughter Teresa, and her husband Lance Tiger. We had a chance to go fish with Striper Express for striped bass up on Lake Texoma. Well, we filmed a little bit of that. Luke was on a fishing trip, I think, for catfish at the same time. And guess what? We filmed it those couple of days. At the end of the week, that was on TV. I mean, it was Jeff had
At
put it together
fast.
for the show. The opportunity to do something that's relatively local in a way. I've got some hunts coming up in British Columbia this fall where I'm hunting moose with the guys from Mossberg. I've got a hunt coming up in Finland where we're hunting whitetail deer with some friends of mine. I've got some other stuff coming up, you know, in Texas and elsewhere. Well, we'll film all those things, but a lot of it is what's going on locally, and locally meaning in a regional basis. But if we're fishing, probably most of the people in North America are fishing. If we're hunting squirrels, it's probably, if they have squirrels, they're probably hunting squirrels. If we're hunting deer, it's deer. We've kind of shied away from some of the international stuff that I've done. We're going to do the Finland thing just simply because, to me, I'd known for a long time there were white-tailed deer in Finland, but I mean, they take like close to 100,000 or more white-tailed deer a year. And
Wow.
so I got invited through a dear friend of mine from Midland, Odessa area, and through the outfitter Stefan and Sophia Bengston with Scandinavian Pro Hunters, who I've hunted with a bunch in Europe, to be there during the time frame when that rut ought to just be kicking off. So we're going to see if we can rattle up a whitetail buck in Finland, kind of thing, and
Wow.
we'll show that. But again, it's a whitetail deer, and I got a feeling, to me, a whitetail deer is whitetail deer is whitetail deer is whitetail deer on infinitum kind of thing. They pretty much have the same basic behavior patterns in that kind of thing. So, we're going to see what happens when I take a set of, and there I'll be using fallow horns or antlers from a fallow deer and rattling those and see if we can rattle up the headgum whitetail buck in Finland kind of thing as well too.
That's interesting.
But again, that particular show is has been very well received, and it's very nicely done. Jeff does a great job. It's available on Carbon TV on a weekly basis. It's available on a weekly basis at also at the YouTube, which is a Sportsman's Life. And then Jeff Rice very graciously about a year ago, or a little less than a year ago, put together a website for me, and it's LarryWeishuhn.net. And on that website there's a link there where you can link to the current and all the past episodes of A Sportsman's Life as well too. So and we talked about the books. That's also where you can find the books, my current books, and order those, and they're of course available other places as well too. But that's a good place to do it, and that way, if you want them autographed or whatever, I can get that done a whole lot easier than trying to do it through some of the other avenues that we have. And it's just plain old like my name. It's LarryWeishuhn.net, all lowercase, all run together, and there too, we I do a lot of blogs for some of the different companies and for different groups such as International Sportsman and Carbon TV and a few others. And I do usually about 3 or 4 blogs, usually two to four blogs a month. And so those blogs can be found there as well. And then there's a link there for the DSC's Campfires with Larry Weishuhn weekly podcast that I do as well too.
Well, I don't know. Like I said, I don't know where you find all the time.
I dearly love what I do, and the good Lord, even at being the age that I am, has blessed me with reasonably good health, and the fact that I can get by with a relatively short amount of sleep per night.
I don't know. Yeah, I need my beauty rest.
Well, it's working.
It's not working very well, but I'm
Oh,
trying.
okay.
Boy, on that note, we are running out of time, but go to Larry's website, LarryWeishuhn.com. Go to his YouTube channel, A Sportsman's Life, Carbon TV. You could find him on a multitude of media. Definitely subscribe to the American Outdoor News Podcast. We are coming out with the June edition of American Outdoor News on Monday with Pat and Nicole Reeve on the cover. So
All
check
right.
that out. And we look forward to speaking to you again.
Chris, thank you so very much. I truly, truly appreciate you and everything that you do. And we look forward to having you around the campfire again before too very long as well, too.
Always appreciate you, Larry. Thanks so much.
Thank you, sir.